They were one board meeting away from pulling the plug. The CEO stared at the quarterly report like it was a bad medical diagnosis. Sales tanked, Gen Z disinterested, investors furious. Someone even floated the idea of selling Harley merch in Walmart. It was that bad. But just when the bar and shield empire looked dead in the exhaust fumes, a totally unexpected move flipped the script, and it had nothing to do with motorcycles. But before we get into it, make sure you have subscribed to our channel and turned on notifications. Just hit the bell below and you'll get alerted when new videos get posted. So what actually saved Harley's life? For a brand that once defined the word freedom, Harley Davidson was starting to look trapped. Not in chains or scandals, but in its own chrome-plated, leather-wrapped image. The open road was still there, but the riders were disappearing, literally. The average Harley buyer in America was over 55. Many of them had already bought their last bike. Younger generations weren't exactly lining up to ride into the sunset with a V-twin rumbling beneath them. Sales were sliding, dealership traffic was dropping, and Harley's domestic market, its crown jewel, was rusting right in front of our eyes. Even worse, nobody inside the company seemed to want to talk about it. See, Harley wasn't just selling motorcycles, it was selling a lifestyle. A very specific, tattooed, boomer-coated Sons of Anarchy core lifestyle. Black leather jackets, loud pipes, bar and shield everything. But that lifestyle, while iconic, had stopped evolving. It froze in time. Somewhere around 2006, the brand just stalled. And you can't stall on a motorcycle, that's when you fall over. Dealerships tried to host events. They brought in food trucks, live music, bikini bike washes. Yes, those still happen, but the crowd wasn't getting younger. Harley even tried making touring bikes fancier. More infotainment, more buttons, more expensive, and somehow less exciting. They thought if they just polished the same old chrome harder, people would come back. Spoiler, they didn't. It didn't help that while Harley was busy chasing their own tailpipes, competitors were quietly eating their lunch. Japanese brands were lighter, cheaper, more reliable. European bikes were faster, sleeker, and sexier. Harley stayed heavy, loud, and expensive. That was the point, right? Maybe. But the problem wasn't just the bikes, it was the people who weren't buying them. And that's when Harley had to face a terrifying question. What if the next generation just doesn't want us? Because the truth is, while Harley was busy protecting their heritage, the Gen Z were busy laughing at it. 2. You ever show a 22-year-old a Harley? Watch their face. That mix of confusion, pity, and maybe just a hint of disgust? That's not just anecdotal, that's the crisis. Gen Z doesn't want to look or ride like their uncles. The grow a beard, buy a Harley, cruise Route 66 and feel like a man vibe? That era is long gone. Today's young adults are minimalist, eco-conscious, and emotionally allergic to anything that screams midlife crisis. And Harley? Well, Harley screams it. First, the bikes are heavy. Like, really heavy. Most Harleys are over 700 pounds. That's not exactly TikTok friendly. They're loud too, which boomers love. But to a generation that grew up with noise-canceling headphones and e-scooters, it's just obnoxious. Then there's the aesthetic. All matte black and skulls and flames. Gen Z wants clean aesthetic. Not something that looks like it belongs outside a strip club at 2 a.m. in Reno. And don't even start with the price. A brand new Harley can run $25,000 easy. Meanwhile, a used Royal Enfield or Honda Rebel is half the price and looks cooler on Instagram. But Harley's real issue isn't just that the bikes don't match the vibe, it's that Harley never even tried to meet the average Gen Z halfway. They didn't bother telling new stories. They didn't create new heroes. They assumed the name was enough. But here's the cold truth. If your brand isn't relevant in memes, trends, or culture, you might as well be invisible. And while Harley was fading from young people's radar, something wild happened. They made an electric bike. Yes, you heard that right. Harley Davidson, the loudest, gas-guzzlingest company on the planet, made a whisper-quiet EV, and that's where things got interesting. Harley Davidson has been riding on the backs of baby boomers for decades. The classic V-twin rumble, the chrome, the leather, it's nostalgia in motion. But while boomers gave Harley their golden years, they also created a huge problem. They were aging out, and Harley didn't have a plan for what came next. For years, the company doubled down on its roots. Big, loud, heavyweight cruisers, expensive, unapologetically old school. But the younger crowd, millennials and Gen Z, didn't care. They weren't looking for the American dream on two wheels. They were looking for practicality, affordability, and maybe something electric with a USB-C port. To them, Harley was like the vinyl record of motorcycles. Cool to look at, not something you actually use. Harley tried to pivot. Remember the LiveWire, their first electric bike? It was sleek, fast, and sounded like a spaceship, but it was also priced at over $20,000. That's a hard sell when your target market is drowning in student debt and still lives with roommates. But now, Harley finally stopped pretending boomers were coming back. They started reading the room. In 2025, they launched the X350 and X500, smaller, cheaper, urban-friendly motorcycles made in collaboration with QJ Motor in China, aimed squarely at the new rider market, especially in Asia, South America, and Europe. They even finally leaned into branded streetwear and content that didn't scream midlife crisis. Think YouTube series, TikToks, and rider vlogs. Yes, Harley on TikTok. Strange times. But that's only one side of the strategy, because Harley also had something wild brewing behind the scenes. Not a bike, not even a helmet. What if I told you Harley's biggest financial pivot had 4 wheels? It sounds insane, but Harley Davidson may have saved itself with a vehicle that doesn't even have handlebars. Seriously. While dealerships were still unpacking the X500 crates, rumors started flying about something else. Not a cruiser, not an adventure bike, something weird. Turns out, Harley was quietly investing in EV platforms, but not just for motorcycles. Through a partnership with a startup that originally built electric off-road utility vehicles, Harley staked a claim in a segment that had zero connection to loud pipes and biker bars, the electric micro-truck market. We're talking about compact electric-powered all-terrain utility rigs built for ranchers, hunters, and outdoor junkies, especially in the Midwest and southern U.S. Think of it as a modern-day mule with a lithium battery. And guess what? It sold. Fast. Small towns loved it. Farmers were pulling stumps with a Harley-powered electric truck. The irony is beautiful. Harley didn't slap a giant logo on the side, at least not at first. It was more subtle. They supplied tech, branding influence, and leveraged their dealer network in places where these trucks made sense. People who never cared about motorcycles were now stepping into Harley-adjacent vehicles. The brand lived on, even if it wasn't on 2 wheels. And while the purists scoffed, the numbers didn't lie. The EV micro-utility sector became a surprising revenue stream. More importantly, it made Harley cool again to people who never gave them a second glance. But they weren't done yet. Because just when people thought Harley was going quiet, they pulled a move straight out of Silicon Valley's playbook. And no, it wasn't another electric bike. While everyone was distracted by electric bikes and utility trucks, Harley Davidson pulled something out of left field, and no one saw it coming. It wasn't about engines. It wasn't about riding gear. It was about data. Yep, Harley went full Silicon Valley. See, for years, Harley riders have been some of the most loyal, trackable consumers on the planet. They show up to rallies, buy branded merchandise, join HOG, Harley Owners Group, and spend thousands on upgrades. Every oil change, every saddlebag, every GPS mount, Harley saw it all. But they weren't really using that data, until now. In 2024, Harley quietly launched an internal tech division, not to build new bikes, but to build a data engine. The idea was simple. Turn rider behavior, location trends, service history, and customization patterns into predictive tools. What do new riders want? What roads do they love? What are they buying after their second year of ownership? It sounds boring until you realize they started licensing these insights. Tourism boards, insurance companies, motorcycle gear brands, even Google Maps, all wanted Harley's location and rider behavior data. It was like Waze, but for motorcycles filtered through decades of Harley loyalty, and they had millions of riders. Then came Harley Connect, an app that combined ride tracking, service alerts, dealership promos, and social features. Riders could form groups, rate roads, share photos, and get real-time maintenance pings. And guess what? It worked on non-Harleys too. Suddenly, even if you rode a Kawasaki or Triumph, Harley had your data. Critics called it creepy. Boomers ignored it, but younger riders loved it. They were already glued to their phones. Now their ride life lived there too. But while Harley was getting tech-savvy, an old ghost came knocking again. A ghost they thought they buried years ago. Let's rewind to 2019. Harley was getting desperate. Sales were tanking. Their core demographic was aging out. They needed something bold. New blood, new headlines, new hope. Enter the LiveWire, Harley's all-electric motorcycle. Sleek, fast, quiet. It was like nothing they'd ever made. Reviewers said it rode like a dream. Instant torque, no heat, no maintenance, no noise. A true marvel. But there was a problem. Nobody asked for it. The LiveWire launched at nearly $30,000. That's Tesla money. And Harley was pitching it to people who didn't even know how to ride. The boomers didn't want it. No rumble, no soul. The younger crowd wanted electric, but definitely not at that price. Sales were sluggish. Dealers were confused, and worse, Harley had invested big, like Silicon Valley level big. It was a make or break moment, and for a while it looked like it broke them. Then Harley made a genius pivot. In 2021, they spun LiveWire into its own brand. Independent, lean, modular. It stopped being a Harley problem and became an experiment. And guess what? That experiment is finally paying off. The latest LiveWire models are cheaper, better range, more stylish, and they're selling, slowly but surely, especially in urban areas. Harley figured out what most legacy companies never do: when to let go and when to rebrand. But even with all that innovation, one question still haunts the company, one tied to the very heart of the Harley legend. What happens when the last true Harley mechanic dies? Let's be honest, working on a Harley used to be a rite of passage. You didn't just own the bike, you became one with it. You named it. You bled for it. You yelled at it like it was your stubborn cousin. And fixing it, that was half the fun. But nowadays, good luck finding a mechanic who knows what a carburetor even is. Seriously, some modern Harley techs look like they just got barista training at Starbucks. Ask them about valve timing and they'll Google it on their smartwatch. Meanwhile, the old school guys, the real legends, they're disappearing. Fast. There's always one in every town. That one cranky wizard with greasy hands, a gray beard, and a garage that smells like gasoline, regret, and bacon. He knows how to tune an Evo by ear. He's got a tattoo that says shovelhead or die. His dog's name is Clutch. That guy, he's the reason half the Harleys in your city still run. But here's the thing, he's 79 now. And he's got a bad hip. And he's real grumpy about fuel injection. It ain't a bike if you can't kickstart it, he says between coughs and sips of room temperature beer. EFI is for lawnmowers and robots. And guess what? He's not training anyone. Why would he? The new bikes are covered in sensors and electronics and software updates. You need a laptop to do an oil change. The charm of wrenching is slowly dying, buried under diagnostic tools and encrypted ECUs. Harley knows it too. That's why they tried to launch a tech school revival program in 2022. It was supposed to pass the torch, teach Gen Z how to rebuild a panhead without crying. But nobody signed up. Turns out TikTok kids don't love pulling transmissions in 90-degree heat. So now Harley's in a weird spot. They want to modernize, sell bikes with Bluetooth and ride modes and whisper quiet electric motors. But deep down, they know what made Harley wasn't tech. It was the people. The hands-on folks, the guys and gals who could tear down a twin cam in their sleep with nothing but a crescent wrench and a cigarette hanging from their lip. And now, that crowd is disappearing. There's a joke going around. The last real Harley mechanic is already dead. He just hasn't realized it yet. It's dark, but kinda true. Still, there's hope. A few young weirdos are picking it up. One kid in Ohio built a softail chopper from scratch. A 23-year-old in Texas rebuilds vintage Sportsters on YouTube. The flame's not out, just dimmer. But the question remains, when the last crusty, magical Harley mechanic closes his garage for good, will the bikes still feel the same? And if you think that's bad, wait till you hear what Harley tried to do with pickup trucks. It's 2003. You walk into a Ford dealership to buy an F-150, and the salesman says, "This one comes with a Harley Davidson badge." You blink. "Wait, like the motorcycle company?" He nods. "Yep, it even has flames." That's not a fever dream. That actually happened. Harley Davidson, the kings of chrome and loud pipes, somehow ended up in your pickup truck. For a while, Harley was on this wild branding bender, slapping its name on everything from cologne to beer koozies to, yes, Ford trucks. And not just any trucks. We're talking big, bad, lifted monsters with two-tone paint, leather seats, and so many HD logos you'd think the steering wheel would grow handlebars. Why did they do it? Money, vibes, America, who knows? The early 2000s were weird, and it worked. For a while, people loved them. The Ford Harley F-150 was like the suburban dad version of a midlife crisis, loud, proud, and ready to tow a boat just to feel something. It had chrome wheels, Harley gauges, branded floor mats, and a V8 that roared like it had a grudge. Even the key fob had attitude. Then it got weirder. They tried making Harley Davidson edition boots, eyeglasses, baby clothes, motor oil, and yes, even a Harley Davidson cake mix. Let that sink in. Somewhere out there, someone made a birthday cake with flaming bar and shield frosting. Happy birthday, Grandpa Bob. Time to ride, some dessert. But eventually, people caught on. The brand got stretched too thin. Hardcore riders didn't want a Harley-branded Ford, they wanted a Harley. And the truck guys didn't want their rugged off-roaders smelling like fake leather and midlife angst. So the side hustle sputtered out. The Ford-Harley partnership ended quietly in the 2010 S, like a weird Vegas marriage no one wants to talk about. And today, those Harley trucks are sitting in used lots across the country, either heavily discounted or somehow going for triple the price on Facebook Marketplace because some guy named Gary says it's a collector's item. But here's the kicker. Despite the oddball marketing, Harley's biggest side hustle isn't dead. Not completely. You still see their branded stuff in weird places. Zippo lighters, pool cues, dog collars. There's probably a Harley microwave out there somewhere just waiting to warm up some rebellious chicken nuggets. And this whole era, it taught Harley one thing. Just because you can slap your name on it doesn't mean you should. Still, they weren't done trying strange ideas. Because when the truck thing fizzled out, Harley went even weirder. They made an electric bicycle. Just when you thought Harley had run out of strange ideas, they dropped this gem in 2020. The serial one, electric bicycle. Yes, a bicycle from Harley Davidson. The same folks who made the Softail Slim, the Fat Bob, and the V-Rod, now making something you could technically take on a bike trail behind your grandma. And it wasn't just a one-off joke. They launched a whole separate company for it, like they were worried the real bikers would find out and revoke their tattoos. Let's get this straight, the serial one was actually kind of cool. Sleek frame, hidden battery, belt drive, no chains to rust. It had that vintage board track racer vibe from the early 1900s, you know, back when helmets were optional and life insurance was a myth. But still, it was a bicycle. A $5,000 electric bicycle, which is hilarious when you remember that most of Harley's audience would rather push a Road King up a mountain than be seen pedaling. And now Harley's selling this to the guy who already spent 15 grand on chrome upgrades and another 600 bucks on a leather vest with his nickname on the back. It didn't make sense. Until it kind of did. You see, Harley was trying to attract younger, eco-conscious riders, people living in cities. The ones who say things like carbon footprint and minimalism. These folks aren't buying road glides. They're buying Teslas and oat milk. Harley had to do something to survive. So they took a gamble. Make bikes that don't rumble, that don't burn gas, that don't need chain lube. Just smooth, silent, battery-powered hipster mobiles. To their credit, the serial one rode beautifully. Quiet, comfortable, techie. And it went up to 28 miles per hour, which, on a bicycle, feels like you're about to time travel. But the Harley faithful were not impressed. If I wanted something quiet and electric, one guy said online, I'd ride my lawnmower to work. Ouch. The serial one is still around, sort of. You can buy it online. It's niche, it's sleek, and it's forgotten. Most people don't even know Harley makes e-bikes, and the ones who do still prefer something that shakes their fillings loose. If you ever wanted to know what it looks like when an American legend starts gasping for air, just rewind to the late 2010s. Harley Davidson, once the unshakable symbol of rebellious freedom and chrome-plated patriotism, was sinking. Not slowly, not quietly. This was a full-on nosedive. Sales were crashing. The baby boomers who once made Harley great were aging out, and younger riders were nowhere to be found. The stock price took a beating. Entire factories were shutting down. Models were getting bloated and irrelevant. People were laughing at Harley, saying it was stuck in the past. And to some degree, they were right. And then Harley's messiah showed up. Jochen Zeitz, the German-born executive who had already done the impossible once, turning Puma from a dusty has-been into a fashion powerhouse. Harley brought him on board in 2020, and he walked in with a sledgehammer. First came the rewire plan. Harley didn't just trim the fat, they carved the company down to bone. They shut down underperforming markets, slashed bloated product lines, fired hundreds, simplified operations. Harley stopped trying to be everything to everyone and focused on the riders who actually mattered, the ones who valued quality, brand legacy, and that pure rumble. Then came the Hardwire, a bold 5-year plan that aimed to turn Harley into a modern, lean, and profitable beast. Premium bikes, stronger dealers, less tech gimmicks, more torque, more soul. Zeitz didn't pander to trends. He didn't chase TikTok fame or electric scooters. He doubled down on what Harley was built on: emotional connection, timeless design, and that irreplaceable feel of a heavyweight cruiser humming beneath you like a mechanical heart. But he also knew Harley had to adapt. Enter the Pan America, an ADV bike that turned heads and actually performed. Enter the Revival Series limited-run bikes that honored Harley's past with modern touches. And yes, the LiveWire electric bike stayed alive, but as a separate brand. He made Harley cool again, not by changing the story, but by telling it better. So no, it wasn't a viral ad or a new bike that saved Harley. It was vision. It was the guts to shrink in order to grow. It was a man who understood that you don't fix a legacy brand by chasing trends. You fix it by returning to what made it iconic and having the stones to kill off everything else. And just like that, the bleeding stopped. So there it is. Harley Davidson isn't just some dusty relic riding the fumes of nostalgia. It's been on the ropes, sure, but it's also been swinging back like an old heavyweight with a steel jaw and something to prove. Between sharp new leadership, unexpected partnerships, a surprisingly sleek electric bike, and a customer base that refuses to quit, Harley survived. It adapted. And nobody saw that coming. Not like this. Who would have guessed that the brand known for deafening pipes and leather vests would pivot into slick street rides without completely losing its soul? If you enjoyed this video, then go ahead, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and click on the next video. We're just getting warmed up. See you in the next one.